Good evening, everyone. My name is Kalela Williams, and I am here with Literary Hub and Mighty Writers. And we are really excited to interview Angie Thomas, the author of The Hate You Give, On the Come Up, and Concrete Rose. I'm also joined by two Mighty Writers students, Anthony and Symphony Wallace. A little bit about Literary Hub and Mighty Writers. Literary Hub is, of course, your source for all things literary. And Mighty Writers is a Philadelphia-based organization that serves 3,500 kids. And we offer free workshops, free tutoring sessions, free mentoring sessions, as well as online events, field trips, all kinds of activities. And because the kids can't learn when they're hungry, we also offer food distribution sites in 5 areas of Philadelphia. Again, I'm joined by these two students, and we are excited to interview Angie Thomas, again, a best-selling author of On the Come Up, The Hate You Give, and her newest book, Concrete Rose. The Hate You Give began as a college project, and of course, it became a bestseller. It is still on the bestseller list. It's on its 236th week on the New York Times bestseller list. Angie Thomas is also a producer. She is actually in Atlanta. She is working on producing On the Come Up, her second book. And this is her first producing venture. So we'll be sure to ask questions about that. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Angie Thomas. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first question. So you have written, as I mentioned, you've written 3 novels, and you've also written a journaling book called Find Your Voice. But I want to focus on your novels and ask a question regarding The Hate You Give, On the Come Up, and Concrete Rose. I feel like there are interlocking themes in all 3 of these novels. If there were one thing that you would want readers to take away from reading these 3 novels, what would it be?
I would have to say that it's the theme that pretty much goes through every book I've written so far, even the one I'm working on now. And it's this theme and this idea of defining yourself, not letting others do it, not letting the world do it, not letting your circumstances do it, not letting your situations do it, not letting hardships, struggles, whatever that may be, not letting that define you, but defining yourself. I think it's so important because so often the world will try to put labels on us before we ever open our mouths. And sometimes we take that and we absorb it ourselves. We take what other people think about us and we live our lives based on what other people think. But when we're doing that, we're giving everybody else more power than we're giving ourselves. And if you look in all 3 of my novels, young people who do that to a degree, who have let what others think determine the decisions they make. And then finally, eventually, they decide, you know what? I'm going to think for myself. I'm going to define myself. I'm going to figure out who I want to be, and nobody else is going to take that from me. So that's the recurring theme through all of my books. It's about identity and defining yourself, and taking that power back for yourself from the rest of the world.
That is such a powerful message, and that's such a strong message, especially for Black teenagers, especially for when you talk about people wanting to put labels on you. I'm going to ask a question actually from a student who's not here tonight. Her name is Amaya Begley, and she's another Mighty Writer student, and she wanted to know. She wrote, according to the Washington Post, The Hate You Give stands to be one of the most challenged books in recent years. So this is speaking to this idea of defining yourself. How do you face this book being challenged? And what keeps you motivated to keep writing when you know that your message may not break through to every audience?
It's funny because I was having a discussion about this earlier with Jamila Gray, who is the young lady who will be playing Bree in On the Come Up. And we were talking about how On the Come Up, the book came about. And for me, on as a response or a diss record to all the people that in The Hate You Give, all the people that challenged that book, all of the people who made assumptions about that book before they ever opened it up and read a page. When the first time I heard about my book being banned, it was disheartening, and it was frustrating more than anything. It hurt a little, but it was more frustrating because the people who were banning it and who were speaking out against it didn't read it. By the description, or they flipped it open, read one page, saw some curse words, and decided, oh, nope. And I think what bothered me was the fact that people are so upset about curse words and not police brutality. You know, like, can we be a little more upset about the fact that over 300 people were killed last year at the hands of police, as opposed to the no 800 people killed at the hands of police, as opposed to the 80 f bombs in the hate you give. You know what I'm saying? So it it's frustrating, but it fuels me. It honestly does. I think having a banned book label is one of the best compliments you can get. When a book is banned, it makes people want to read it more. But also, I think that it just means too that I'm doing something right. If I'm making people so uncomfortable that they want to silence me, I'm doing something right. And I think that's the message we also get in on the come up. There are all these attempts to silence Bree, and she decided, you know what? I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak out. I'm going to speak my truth. So that book is definitely a response to the banning of The Hate You Give and the attempts to silence me.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's really important. And you're right. If you're not doing something, if you're not making somebody uncomfortable, when you're talking about subjects like what you're talking about, when you're talking about themes like Black identity, when you're talking about what's going on in many of our communities, if people aren't uncomfortable, then maybe you're not writing the truth, right? So
Definitely.
I have another question. And you, as a former teen rapper yourself, you draw inspiration from rappers, maybe most notably Tupac. If he were alive today, what do you think he would have to say about The Hate You Give and perhaps your other works?
Ooh, nobody has ever asked me that, and you just gave me a chill by asking me that. I would hope that he would approve. I'd hope that he would be stories that I'm telling. I have to say this. I love Russell Hornsby, but like if Tupac were alive, I would have loved for him to have played Maverick. Like that would have just been so dope. But I hope it helps bring his message of thug life um in people's minds, understand thug life and what it means and what that represents for Tupac and what he intended when he created that. And I would hope that he would love that I'm using, I'm paying homage to his mindset and to his thought and his theory. I would hope that he would support it and love it. So yeah, and same with Concrete Rose. Honestly, the character of Maverick is so inspiring. That's my mom in the background. Mom, I'm doing a live interview. Sorry.
Hi. Hi, Angie's
They're
mom.
saying hi. They're saying hi. Let me turn it this way. But no, I would hope that with Concrete Rose as well,
Hmm.
he would be honored and appreciated because again, Maverick's story and Maverick's is so inspired by Tupac that for me they're almost one and the same. So I'd hope that he.
Yeah, I would think that he would be honored. I would think that he would be.
I'd
Um,
hope so. I'd hope so.
Yeah, and I have another question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Anthony and Symphony. And I want to ask you about your experiences as a producer. This is your first time producing a film. Of course, The Hate You Give was made into a feature film, but this is your first time actually being on the other side of the process. The first time, of course, I believe you helped adapt the screenplay, and in this case, you are a producer. Can you speak to that experience? Can you talk about what that's like?
Yeah, that's been super. It's been amazing. It's been an honor. I'm getting to work with people I love and admire. One of my favorite films of all time is Love and Basketball. I love that movie. I owned like the VHS of that movie. I've streamed that movie all the time. And that movie stars Sanaa Lathan. Well, Sanaa Lathan is directing on the come up, and she's playing Bree's mom, Jay. And getting to talk with her and finding out how much she loves the book, and then to how much she loves the story and connects with the story has been awesome. And seeing her vision and my vision come together and come to life has been incredible. But I'm doing a lot of learning in this. I think whenever you start something new, it's always best to learn and soak up as much knowledge as you can. So right now, I'm kind of like in the baby phase of producing. I'm watching, I'm learning, I'm asking questions. Don't be afraid when you're trying something new, don't be afraid to ask questions as well, because there's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. If it needs to be asked, it's a legit question. So I'm asking questions and I'm watching and I'm taking notes and noticing things and all of that. So it's been great. I'm not a decision maker because I know there are going to be people who watch the movie and they're like, why wasn't so and so in it? Why was this, and this? I'm not the ultimate decision maker. I am not. But my opinions as a producer are greatly valued, and I'm thankful that. But yeah, today I got to meet the two young men who play Sonny and Malik, and I had a moment that wasn't like a producer moment, but an author moment where it was like, oh snap, they look just like I imagined in my head. Like I'm talking to my characters right now. So it was super dope. It's super amazing, and I'm thankful for it. And I think we're gonna have an
So I think we've got a little bit of fluctuating internet here, so I apologize if I'm speaking over you. But I'm going to go ahead and first of all, that sounds like a surreal experience. That sounds great. I saw the kids nodding with love and basketball. I'm glad that you all have that movie is of course before your time, but I'm glad it's a classic. So I'm glad that you know your classics. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. Symphony, do you want to go ahead and ask your first question?
Yes. In the book, you use lyrics and for Bree to express herself in the book. What made you decide to incorporate lyrics in the book?
That's a great question. You know, I think the main reason was because so often people don't think of rap as being poetry, but it is. And so if I present it to you like this in a book, it comes across more so as poetry. And then maybe you start to look at it and say, wait a minute, so the rappers that I'm listening to are poets. Oh, I can look at this as being poetry. And then for people too who aren't into hip hop who read this book, I wanted them to read the raps and be like, wait, maybe, this is like poems. This is like a poet. Bree is a poet, huh? So maybe other rappers in real life are poets. So that was a big part of it. Plus, I felt like I couldn't write a book about a rapper without actually including some raps in there. Since this is so much of who she is, and this gives us such a view into her and her feelings and emotions and all her struggles and triumphs. It felt right to let her express herself through raps written in the book. So I will never do it again though. Like I will never do it again. It was fun, but it was a struggle too. I'm not a rapper. I wanted to be one as a teenager and I stopped for a reason, and I remember that reason as I was writing the book. I'm not good at it. So again.
I thought it was ingenious. I'm going to use that to teach stream of consciousness to kids, because I just thought the way that she would connect a word, she would think of a word and then connect it with another word. That was, and this is just sort of running in the background of her mind, the way that you infuse that was genius. That was just about as genius as hip hop is, because of course hip hop is a genius genre. Anthony, I'm going to ask a question.
Yes. What was the hardest part of writing Concrete Road, since Maverick was the narrator in this book, since you had to uh, use your brain as hard as you can to think like as a man?
Yeah, that was definitely a challenge, because it was like you were saying, this is the first book I've written where it's a perspective that I don't know. So like Star's story is very similar to my story growing up. Bree's story has some similarities to my story is wanting to be a rapper and stuff like that. But Maverick, I've never been a 17-year-old black boy. I've never been a teen parent. I've never been involved in a gang. I've never sold drugs. So I had to talk to people who have, who do, who did. You know, I had to talk to I had to talk to black boys. I read books by black men. I read books about black boys because I feel if you're going to write something about someone unlike yourself, the least you can do is do the work. You know, I think that's the most respectful thing you can do to the people who do and did that work. So I had the conversations. I did a lot of reading and listening, and that's what helped me to get in his head. And also having conversations with Russell Hornsby, who played Maverick in the film, also helped me a lot because there were things he recognized about the character that me, a black woman, I didn't pick up.
Mm.
And so I'm glad I had those conversations with him as well. They helped me understand my character even better, even if that sounds weird, but they did. So yeah, it took though talking and listening, talking and listening and asking questions for me to get Maverick as close to right as possible.
Yeah, and Anthony actually made a really good point. We were talking before the we were working together before this interview, and Anthony made the point of he said, well, she was a teen rapper, and rappers have to know things from different perspectives. That's part of rap, and she studies rap, she listens to rap, so that probably helped. That was his guess. That might have helped with
Yeah.
your
It did and did. And you know what else too? Because the book took place in 1998 and 1999, I was like what 10, 11, 12 in those years. So I don't know. I didn't remember the stuff that a 17-year-old would be going through or thing or into back then. So I had to listen to hip hop from that era to know what kind of cars people were into, what kind of clothes they were into, what kind of slang was being used. You know, hip hop is literally a historical archive. Like if you want to know what people were wearing in 87, go listen to hip hop from 87 and it will tell you the history of hip hop culture, black culture, all of that just by listening to the songs and to the rappers. So I'm thankful for hip hop because it gave me the perspective of a young black man and it gave me the historical stuff that I needed for a book set in that time.
That is an amazing perspective. I study history, and I never thought of it that way, to look at hip hop as an archive. And you were absolutely right. That is brilliant. Symphony, do you have another question?
So now that you're an adult, how did you tap in to making teen characters feel relatable?
Mm. I think what us adults fail to do is we fail to try to remember what it was like when we were your age. And we act as if we're so far beyond that. We act as if we're so, um, that's not us deal you deal with, you can understand and relate to now. And we just have to remind ourselves of that. For me, it takes listening to you all, talking to you and noticing what you're into, what's important to you, what matters to you, and respecting that. I respect my readers. I respect teenagers. I respect voices, opinions, all of it. I hate when I come across books who are like, oh, the music teenagers listen to is so blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there was a point the music you listened to when you were a teenager was looked down upon. You know what I'm saying? So where do we come off? Like, I respect y'all. I respect that y'all are into talk and all of this stuff. I respect that. I love it. And so I think I always have to come to it from that perspective of respect first. And then also recognizing too that something that an adult may think is minor is not minor to you, and that's fine. So often adults downplay what y'all go through and say, oh, that's nothing. No, but you, it matters. if it means something to you, if it's important to you, it matters. And as a writer, I have to think about those things as well. So, maybe now at my age, I'm not worried about, what my first day of work outfit is going to look like as much as y'all may worry about what your first day of school fit is going to look like. But I respect it because who don't want to show fresh? You know what I'm saying? So I respect that. I appreciate it. And I have to tap into that and remind myself of what it's like to be 17 and talk to 17-year-olds, get those reminders and perspectives.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that is again, just more truth. Anthony, what's your next question?
Do you plan to write a book from the 20 years or so that from Concrete Rose to the Hate You Give?
I have to add, when I asked when we talked about Concrete Rose, one of the questions was, did you like the book? And of course, Anthony said, yes. And then I said, was there anything about what you didn't like about the book? And he said, yes, it ended. And of course, and there's a 20-year gap between the Hate You Give. So yeah,
I will give y'all a little sneak peek heads up. The hope and the discussion right now, I don't plan on doing a book, but the goal and the discussion right now is to possibly have a television show based on Concrete Rose that also explores those years between Concrete Rose and The Hate You Give. There's so much story there. There's so much history there that can be explored from Maverick's story, but not just Maverick, Lisa, King, Aisha, all of those four characters. There's so much that can be explored about them through a show. So once we get on the come up finish and get it out there, the next thing that we're going to be talking about, because it's the same production team, we're going to be talking about is a Concrete Rose show. So I've already been in touch and discussing it with George Tillman, who directed The Hate You Give, and he's excited. We've already been discussing ideas of what we want to do. So the goal is, that's the next goal, to get a Concrete Rose show going.
Nice. Oh man, that is exciting. Symphony, what is your next question?
Is there gonna be a sequel to On the Come Up?
Symphony, do you mind repeating your question? I think we might have frozen just a little bit.
Is there gonna be a sequel to On the Come Up?
We might have a bit of an internet situation. We all know how this is with doing online programs. Oh, I think we got you back.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. I think we froze for a minute. Symphony asked if there would be a sequel to On the Come Up.
I get asked that one too because of how it ended. Because everybody wants to know who's the rapper, who was the rapper. The movie is going to reveal the rapper. The movie's going to reveal the rapper. So that's going to be fun. I don't have plans for it right now, but I won't say never. I will never say never. It's definitely possible. I have to say, I'm going back to the movie thing, but being here on set is kind of rejuvenating. I have an appreciation for these characters and this story. So, I think there's still more that can be explored. So, hey, it's possible. I don't have the plans right now. I'm working on my fourth book right now, and it's totally different from any of the others. So we'll see. We'll see. That's all I say. We'll see.
Yeah, I was reading a little sneak peek in Publishers about your fourth book, and I'm really excited. So Anthony, I think you have one more question to ask.
In all your novels, which characters or can you relate to the most?
A little bit of all of them I relate to a little bit. I feel like I've put bits and pieces of me in all three of the main characters. So Star, and the fact that she lived in the hood and went to that mostly white private school, that was me, but in college. I didn't lose a friend at the hands of police brutality, but the death of a young man named Oscar Grant in Oakland, California, affected me immensely. And his death pushed me to find my voice and my activism. So, in a similar vein to Star and Khalil. So my that was my situation. With Bree, again, it's kind of the hip hop thing, but also being in that financial situation. I grew up poor. And there was a time when my mom lost her job, and it really turned things upside down for us. So that was definitely something I understood and something I dealt with, and wanting to make it and not knowing what that necessarily looks like, but knowing that I want to do something so my family doesn't have to struggle. And Maverick, the love Maverick has for his family, and his devotion to try to be a good person and try to learn and figure out who he is, that's something I definitely identify with. And also not having his father around. My dad wasn't in prison, but I understood the heartache of that and the pain of that and the struggle of that. So yeah, all three of them have. I took bits of me and put it in all three of them, and I think as writers, that's what we do a lot of times. There's a little piece of us in every single character we write.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I want to actually go back to this idea of finding your voice, because a lot of what you write is, of course, about finding your voice. And you said so beautifully earlier in this conversation, you talked about finding one's voice and speaking one's truth. But it's hard because circling back to what you said, you were challenged. Sometimes people try to cut you down when you speak your truth and when you try to use your voice. What advice can you give to teenagers, to young people, to adults, in terms of not just finding our voice, but using our voices?
Yeah, well, one, I say your voice matters. Your thoughts matter, your opinions matter. Know that you are powerful. You have power. You have the power to change the world truly by speaking up and speaking out about things that matter to you, that you're passionate about. And as far as using your voice and letting that fear go, remind yourself that every person who changed the world, every person who's made an impact in life and on history or whatever it may be, um, they were afraid to do it. They just overcame that fear. There's a line in The Hate You Give that says, brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you go on even though you're scared. And that's what you have to do. You have a voice. There's so many people making so much noise right now. That's the world we live in. And thanks to social media and all these different things, it's easier now more than ever for people to make themselves heard. And so often the ignorant voices are being heard. The ignorant voices are the loudest. But if we start speaking up and speaking out and we start using our voices, we can create effective change so that generations ahead of us will be impacted by the things we say and do now. You know what I'm saying? So just remind yourself, every person, every hero you have, they were afraid. They had fear, but they decided that their fear was not greater than the impact and the power that was within them. So that same power that was in them is in you. Use your voice, speak up, speak out. It matters. It truly makes a difference.
That is amazing. That's something I'm going to carry with me. I'm going to carry that with me. I'm going to put that right here. Those are all the questions that I have. I want to just give a quick little mention. I know you mentioned your mom was in the background. We have a mighty mom in this room. You can't see her. She's behind the screen, but she's the mom of these of Symphony and Anthony. And I just want to say, I just want to give my gratitude to the parents out there. When I talked to Symphony and Anthony last night, I said, hey, I know sometimes, moms might get on your nerves sometimes, parents might get on your nerves sometimes, but she's pushing you, and that's so important. And it's so meaningful to see that your mom is with you. Do you have anything to say about that? Anything to say about parents, moms,
Yeah,
dads?
yeah, I do. I'm so thankful for my mom over here. If you heard rustling in the background, it's because she went to Target for a quick run, and it was not quick. It was not quick. We got a whole lot more than we went in there that I thought we were going to go in there and get. But that's my way of. I said she deserves it because she's done. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it were not for her, not just pushing me, but encouraging me. Every wild dream that I had, my mom was like, "Okay, let's figure out how to make this happen." So like when I was talking about being a rapper, my mom would make calls to get it to see what we could do, what she could do to help me to make it. When I said, I think I'd rather be a writer, she was the one who helped me find a college that had a creative writing program. So parents, one of the things that I hope that you do is don't don't downplay your kids' dreams just because it's something that you haven't seen come to fruition yourself. Don't limit your kids based on your own experiences. Now, what I'd say to the young people about your parents is know that they're human. One of the best things, I think one of the biggest moments you will have as far as growing up and maturing is the moment you realize your parents are human. That means they're going to make mistakes. That means they're not always right, but they have good intentions. That means that, they have their own things that they have to work through. They have their own struggles themselves. And once you realize they're human, it helps you grow so much more. But listen, of course, listen to them and respect them and all of that. And I hope that you have parents who do encourage you and push you to strive to be the best you. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that is just remember your parents are human beings.
Mm. Thank you for that. And if you heard giggling in the background, it's because when you mentioned the Target run, our mom here, Tiffany, was just giggling right along to that because it sounds like something she could relate to. So again, those are all the questions that I have. Anything you want to add? Anything else you want to say?
Well, first off, thank y'all so much. It's been an honor to talk with you. Your questions were awesome. They were amazing, and I appreciate the love and support. And I'm just going to keep writing books that hopefully will keep you reading. I wouldn't do what I do if it were not for y'all. So thank you for being the inspiration I need just by being your true, authentic selves.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Symphony and Anthony and Amaya Begley, who also contributed some questions. And Tiffany, our mom, who's in the room, and of course, we've got Kalani behind the screen. And again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is an event that was co-hosted by Literary Hub, your source for all things literary, and of course, Mighty Writers, which is a Philadelphia-based organization that teaches kids to write with clarity. And we offer free workshops and tutoring sessions and mentoring sessions to thousands of kids in the greater Philadelphia region. We cannot do this without people who are invested as volunteers and as supporters. So please feel free to reach out if you are interested in all of the above. And again, thank you for joining us. And Angie, thank you so much. I feel like I've just grown today. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Good night.